let's spend a few minutes and talk about grip. In my personal opinion, grip is the single most important fundamental. Here's a couple of reasons why. If you have a good grip and your body is aligned up on the target, your sight alignment will come like that. However, if you have a crappy grip, you're gonna have to spend time getting your sights aligned. And then once you get your sights aligned, then you have to pull the trigger and do all these other things. The other reason why it's the most important is you're gonna manage muzzle flip. It has some elements to managing recoil, but more so it's managing muzzle flip. So if you're managing muzzle flip, you can get more shots on target faster. How can you maximize your friction on your gun, and how do you attain a great grip? Now, just because you obtain it once, that doesn't mean that you have a good grip. You have to be able to do it consistently over and over. You have to be able to get back into it after changing a magazine. You have to do all kinds of things. But the most important thing is to finding it first. You have to find the grip that is comfortable and maximizes friction for you, and then you have to practice with it. So a couple of important things here when we're talking about grip. First, we're talking about pressure here and here in the palms of your hands, whether you're right-handed or left-handed. I'm right-handed, so if you're watching this and you're left-handed, just use your left hand instead of your right hand. So you want some pressure back here in these meaty parts of your hand. When we talk about thumbs, if you're pushing your thumb hard enough to where it discolors, you're pressing too hard with your thumbs. You're just pressing too hard with your thumbs. I'm not saying they don't work, but I don't think they work as much as you want them to work. There might be some dissenting opinions on that one, but I'm going to continue on with this video, and then after you watch the whole thing through, if you have some dissenting opinions, please link them up in the comments below. Your support hand, left hand for me, you should have some tension right in your forearms. Your wrist, when you're set into position, they should be locked in position, okay? So you should be able to just really lock your wrist out, but you have to be able to move your trigger finger. Which brings me to, you should be probably gripping more with your support hand than you are with your strong hand, because you can grip hard with your support hand and not so hard with your strong hand. That way you can move your finger, okay? So let's get into it. Pistol is clear. First things first, as we all should do, we should get high up into the beaver tail with the webbing of our strong hand, which is here. With the webbing of our strong hand, we should get as high as we can on that beaver tail. Now with a Glock, what tends to happen with the Glock for me is that I'll get pinched because I get so high. Because of this little part right here, I guess you would call it the tang. See, this part's thick from the bottom to where the slide meets. On this Canic, it's thick, but on a Glock, it's not thick. On a Glock, it's pretty thin. So I get pinched because I get so high whenever I use a Glock. Now with my Canics, I don't have that problem. So I get as high as I can, and I don't want any space between my hand and that beaver tail. Now, a lot of people, they want to grip like this. They want to gorilla grip the gun. But here's the problem with that. This thumb is in the way. So when you take your support hand and you place it here, you're not maximizing friction with your support hand. So you have to get real estate on the firearm by moving your thumb up and out of the way. Hitchhiking, so to speak. I know it looks silly, but that's the only way you can do it, because you need this real estate here for your support hand. Obviously, my trigger finger is going to be out of the trigger well until I'm ready to shoot, until I've identified my target and, you know, all those safety things, right? But the most important thing here with your strong hand is to get high up into the beaver tail and gripping these three fingers around and having it grip not so tight that you're shaking, but a nice firm tightness. If your tightness is so much that you're shaking, and I'm over exaggerating here, of course, you're too tight. You need to relax a little bit, all right? Your support hand provides a massive amount of support when we're talking about muzzle flip or muzzle rise. If you just shoot one-handed, you'll know right away that the gun, if you're right-handed, the gun is going to try to go up and to the left because there's nothing here to support it. And if you're left-handed, the gun will want to go up and to the right, again, because there's nothing here to support it. If you take your support hand and you put it here, see how low I am though? If I put it here, now there's some support, but we're not controlling the front of the gun. We're just controlling the back of the gun. So what you need to do is go from here to here. Just change your angles of your hand, just like that. Now I can control the front of the gun pretty well. The more forward I can get on the gun, the better. But I don't want to create gaps back here. That's the caveat on that. So how do I attain that grip? That support hand grip. Let's say I have my gun in my hand, right? I'm gonna use my knife hand here. This is my gun. I'm gonna take my support hand, I'm gonna place it together, just like this. And I'm gonna take my support hand and go as far, I'm gonna angle it as far as I can. If you have any wrist limitations, this may be difficult for you. But in general, you wanna go as far as you can. And then I'm gonna take my hands and I'm gonna close them like this. And then the top thumb, my top thumb, I'm gonna take that and I'm gonna point it towards the target as much as I can. You see how big of a bend is in my support hand wrist? Because I was trying to take this thumb and point it towards the target, the top of this thumb. Now this is with no gun right now, because you need to figure out where your tension should be in your forearms when you have a gun in your hand. Pistol, namely. The same thing is true if you have a rifle. It's the same concept. You're just pointing this thumb and you're grabbing that rifle on the front as far forward as you can so that you can manipulate the rifle. It's the same concept. Again, here, turn, close, and then I'm going to take the top knuckle and I'll point it to an aiming point or a target or whatever. You'll see some people do this. Tell them to bend their elbows out slightly. And when you do bend your elbows out slightly, you're going to feel pressure on the meaty parts of your hands, here and here, okay? So here, bend your elbows out, and you're pushing those two hands together like a vise. So how does that apply with the firearm? Moving that thumb up out of the way, I have a good, firm, strong hand grip, and then I'm going to take my support hand, and I'm going to find an aiming point. It could be a target at the range or whatever, and I'm just going to turn my wrist so that my thumb is pointing to that aiming point. If you notice, I'm going to do this, it's kind of awkward, but if you see my hand now, all I have to do is place it in the puzzle here. You just place it in the puzzle here. You want to fill up as much of the gun as you can with your hand, your support hand, on, if you're right-handed, on the left side, if you're left-handed, on the right side. A good technique is to find a touch point and just always touch that point on the firearm, on the frame of the firearm, and then fill in the gaps here with the rest of your hand. I want to grip pretty hard. I want to like grip pretty hard here with this hand versus this hand, because I need to move this trigger finger when I go to shoot. Okay, so I need to be able to do this. If I'm gripping really hard, it's hard for me to do that, right? So I need to have a nice firm grip, but I still need to be able to move that trigger with just moving my trigger finger. But with this hand, I don't have to worry about a trigger finger, right? So I can grip really hard with my support hand and push it forward. Now, remember when I was doing the exercise without the firearm? Now I'm doing the exercises with the firearm, and you can see the similarities. Now, if I'm like this, just take my elbows and come out. Now I feel the pressure here in my meaty part, and then also back here in my meaty part. Speaking of back here in my meaty part, you see how there's no gaps? I'm not here. See how there's a gap there? Because the gun's going to try to move. I'm not here. I'm not here. I'm right here. Now remember when I talked about the discoloration of your thumb if you're pressing too hard? It's capillary refill. So capillary refill is when you press your thumb and you let it go and it turns from white to pink, for example. Well, you test your capillary refill when you do some kind of a tourniquet or something, because you want to make sure there's circulation going to your furthest extremities. Or maybe you don't want that. For example, if you have a gunshot wound to the arm or something, and you want to make sure there's no circulation getting to that thumb, because you want to make sure that bleeding has stopped, for example. But if you were putting on a pressure bandage, you definitely want some circulation going to the furthest extremities that you have. So capillary refill is just that. You press your thumb, and you let go, you're going to see a quick change from, let's say, white to, in my case, white to red, okay? Or white to pink or something of that nature. So this, if I'm pressing, you can kind of see it right there. If I'm pressing hard on the gun itself, you can see the capillary refill on my thumb. If you see that, if you're at the range and you're like, okay, do I have my good grip? Is everything right? And you see that your thumbs are changing colors, when you press down, you're pressing down too hard with your thumbs. And here's the thing, here's what happens. A lot of people, when they're trying to do this grip, this technique, they're pressing down with this thumb here, and then as they're doing that, and as they're shooting, this thumb snakes in between the gun or the pistol grip and their support hand. So now they just basically stopped using maximum friction on the firearm. I'm not saying thumbs don't have a purpose. I just know for a fact, if you chopped them off here at the last knuckle, you could still fire the gun, and you could fire it well. A good technique to do is, obviously, like I said, touch point here. But another technique is maybe take this thumb and just put it just behind the knuckle of your support hand thumb. Like that. Now I'm not pressing. You see how that capillary refill is happening? I'm not pressing, I'm just resting it there. And as I shoot, everything moves at once. Again, if you're pressing down and you see that color change in your thumb, relax it a little bit. Just in your thumbs, by the way. I'm not saying the rest of it. I'm saying just in your thumbs. Because you need to be gripping hard up front here with your support hand. And you need to be pressing your two hands together, but you don't need to be pushing your thumbs in. Now that technique is going to vary between each individual. This is just something to help you get started or to refine your technique. All right, guys, I hope you liked the video. This is all about grip. There's going to be some technique out there. I'm sure there's going to be some dissenting opinions, but you know what they say, man, techniques are like assholes. Everybody's got one. So that's just the technique that I use, and it works quite well for me. Hopefully you can use it and it will work well for you. If you like this video, do all the things you're supposed to do. You know, like, subscribe, share, hit the notification bell, like all those social media things, man. And it really would help out the channel if you did that. As we know, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, all these other social media channels, they're going to suppress the 2A voice one way or another. And that's completely unfortunate. So we need to try to support each other if you like this content. I do wish that there was a platform like YouTube that was specifically 2A related, If anybody does that, that'd be awesome. I know there's some other platforms out there that don't, you know, restrict to a related content. But, you know, honestly, let's be honest with ourselves. Google and YouTube have a huge monopoly on the whole social media stuff when it comes to videos anyway. And then obviously you have Twitter for more commentary or words on the digital screen. And then your Instagram, I mean, it's hot garbage, and I'm not getting on TikTok. So it'd be really appreciative if you went ahead and did all the social media things to get my name out there, to get the AAA coach name out there, especially if you like this kind of content. Anyway, that's my spill. See you later. Tack out.